A new sci-fi movie with Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley. Many delays. 23% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we have a review of a movie which was meant to come out in 2019. It is, of course, the long-delayed Chaos Walking. Chaos Walking takes place in a dystopian world where there are no women and all living creatures can hear each other's thoughts in a stream of images, words and sounds called noise. Despite all the rumours and news surrounding this project, I was still really excited for it. Tom Holland's one of my more favourite actors working at the moment, so I'll take any chance to see him in a new project. But as we've seen in the past, when there have been many delays without the coronavirus, that certainly suggests that this movie could be poor. So is Chaos Walking literally walking chaos? Sorry about that, but we'll find out. So diving into my pros, but first of all, if you are a returning subscriber and you've seen in the past that I normally have the word pros up on screen or cons up on screen when I'm talking about them, you can probably notice they're absent now, and that's because I've substituted them for the lights. So when they're green, they're positive. When they're red, they're negative. But anyway, the positives for Chaos Walking. I talked about the noise, which is the men's thoughts projected out loud that I talked about in the synopsis. That does sound like a really odd thing to transition from a book into a movie, but I think it really did make for some interesting scenes and unique parts to this movie, which I did enjoy. I can only imagine how weird it must have been filming it though, because there's so many moments where people have conversations with their thoughts. So the actors would have just been there, sitting down, pretending like they have an idea of what's going on. I mentioned that the noise made for some interesting scenarios and scenes, and one of them was when people are being interrogated and, they're trying to get information from them, but the people who are concealing that information also have to conceal themselves from thinking about it, because otherwise it will just be said out loud from their thoughts. So it made for some interesting things with that, where they're just shouting their name in their mind so they won't reveal the location. The noise really was one of the main positives I have to say about this movie, as it also made for some funny interactions with characters where it kind of exposes what they're thinking about the other person. Stuff you wouldn't normally say straight to their face, so stuff like that made it for some nice humour within this movie. Stuff like that, amongst other things, you could really see that this movie did have some potential, but it didn't live up to that potential, and we'll talk about that more in the cons. So with this movie, I've talked about the noise a lot in the positives. It also had its poor moments where it caused a lot of confusion for what was actually happening in certain points. At times it was for effect, with trying to feel overwhelmed with people just constantly talking to you but with their minds, or them judging you, but sometimes it really made for some awkward interactions, especially on a visual note at times. So there would be this group of men on horses riding together, and then from a distance you'd see all this purple, not smoke, but kind of mist, I guess, come off of them, which is their noise, and it looked a bit cheesy at times, especially, since there was no nighttime, or when it is nighttime there, it doesn't get dark. So not a huge deal, but stuff like that was a bit irritating at points. And as for our two main leads, Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, they didn't really have any chemistry. Their characters throughout this journey didn't really get along that well, and even when they did, there was little chemistry to be had between the two. In the first place, I never really understood why Todd, who's played by Tom Holland, I never really understood why he was helping her out in the first place. And going through this journey, I know he couldn't really turn back, but some points it's why not just leave her, because she's not really grateful when she doesn't care about you. To be honest, he doesn't really gain anything from taking her there, except maybe approval from one person. That's all I could think of, really. And Viola herself, Daisy Ridley, her character was very bland. She's this focus of this whole story as being the only female, and what they did with her character, she didn't really have any growth at all. And to be honest, that goes the same for Mads Mikkelsen's character, who he did a good performance, but the script and just the story itself didn't allow for any growth or us to care about him that much. They established these sort of creatures they say aliens, but they're the actual natives to the planet, so I guess you can't really call them aliens, but we had a few hints about them. You know, we saw some minor things, you know, like a brief thing in the background and then one small scene with one, but I thought more could have been done with that. It just shows that there was a lot of things unexplored through this world, and something like that, they could have involved it more, because it felt like it was just brought in for like one scene's purpose or like the reason for something, but then it wasn't really important at all. So I feel like they should have either had them more involved or just not had them at all. It felt a bit awkward just having, you know, they come across this civilization of them, but then they don't reference them at all after that point. At the very end, you could really see where these editing and problems behind the scenes came into effect. It was very rushed, and now in hindsight, I'm not really familiar with the books, but apparently they tried to make this movie a combination of all three books, so that in itself says that it would be rushed with anyone who's a fan of the books. I doubt they're ever going to get a sequel to this, but it just doesn't give a satisfying ending at all, and I don't know if it's accurate to the books. In terms of the ending itself, it doesn't really properly feel like an ending. It feels like a punch to the balls, because it's literally made the whole journey so pointless because it ends in the same result. So we've just done all that for nothing, watched this for nothing, as we're kind of back where we started. Overall, I actually had a bit of fun watching this. It was a very flawed movie, and there's definitely problems on show here, and that's by no means me saying it is a good movie. It has its problems. Some of the hate I've seen for it, I don't think it's as deserved as it should be. It isn't as bad as people are saying. I think people are just jumping on the trend of it being bad because it had so many reshoots, but you know, you can still have fun with it. It's not amazing, but there's still some moments which were either entertaining or made you laugh. So in terms of a score for Chaos Walking, I'm going to give it a 63%, so that should say how I thought about it. You know, maybe just a bit below average, but nonetheless still pretty entertaining. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Chaos Walking, and if you thought it was as bad as everyone said. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in my next video.